Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to do a little bit of a different video for my channel. I wanted to talk to you guys about why I quit teaching. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of share my experience with people who maybe are going through wanting to quit teaching or are teachers right now and feel that the workload is some crazy and it's making you really stressed out. I just wanted to share my experience with y'all and just, yeah, I don't know, just share it with you guys. I watched a lot of these videos prior to me quitting, so I don't know, it just helped me see that I wasn't the only one feeling this way. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna preface this by saying that none of the reason why I quit teaching was because of my school or the district that I worked for. I'm not gonna say anything bad about them because, to be honest, I actually genuinely believe that I worked for probably the best school and the best district that there is, and it has nothing to do with them. It's more so of the profession in general. So that's kind of, I just wanted to give that little, I guess, give that little, what's it called? I just wanted to kind of note that before getting started with the video. So a little background about me. I actually went to school for public relations and business, but when I graduated, I wanted to teach. I don't know why. I just literally, like, I graduated and I was looking for jobs in public relations, but I was like, I kind of want to be a teacher. Like, I want to see what that's about. I think I was driving and I saw like a sign that says want to teach or whatever, and so I decided to get more information about it, and I ended up getting alternatively certified. So what that means, at least in Texas, is that you basically study for the state exam and you take it, and if you pass it, then you are a certified teacher. And there's other requirements that you have to accomplish. Like, I had to take 3 tests because I was a bilingual education teacher, so that was 1 test, and then I had to take a generalist test, and then I don't know, another one, I forgot what it was called, and then I also had to complete a certain amount of hours in the classroom and do like projects and things like that. But so yeah, so that's what I did, and I ended up getting a job really quickly. As soon as I passed those exams, I was able to start teaching. So I started teaching in a district, but that wasn't really the district that I wanted to teach in, and I eventually ended up landing the job that I had for 6 years, and I worked at a district that was really good, and I really wanted to work there. So anyways, yeah, that's kind of how I got into teaching, I guess, as a little backstory. Now, I will say that when I started teaching, I knew that teaching wasn't what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, because once I got into the classroom, I just started to realize a lot of different things that I knew just weren't for me. And at the end of the day, I always wanted to do something in like social media or marketing or something like that. But I think that I got into teaching and I got comfortable and I stayed because it was nice and convenient, to be honest. Like, summer's off, all Christmas breaks off and all that stuff. So I just basically ended up staying. I literally remember saying, like, I'm only going to teach for like a year or 2 and then I'm going to move on. And 6 years later, here I am. Actually, it's like 6.5 years later, here I am. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit of a backstory. So I wanted to break this video down into 5 reasons why I quit teaching, because, to be honest, there's a lot that goes into it and I could go on forever, but I just wanted to break it down into the 5 reasons and kind of go into detail. And I know that a lot of people are going through this right now because there's a teacher shortage, and that is for a fact, because I live by a couple of schools around that are around my house, and every single time I drive by them, there's like on the marquee, it says like 3rd and 4th grade or whatever, teachers needed, and school starts in 3 weeks. So if you haven't found teachers by now, like, I don't know, it just seems kind of weird, because usually that's not the case. Usually everyone, pretty much, the like positions are pretty much filled unless they're like hard positions to fill, like sped or something like that. So yeah, I definitely think that there's a teacher shortage, and I think a lot of it has to do because of COVID. But I think COVID is the reason why I knew I was done, because of just a lot of the things that happened this year. So let's go ahead and get started with my first reason why I quit teaching. Okay, so the first reason why I quit teaching is overall the workload and the demand of the profession just started to become so overbearing. And to be honest, when I was younger, when I started teaching, I was only like 23, I think, or 22. And I didn't know any better because it was the only job I had like right out of college. And so I just didn't really know that. I don't think that that was normal, the workload that we have. But as I got older and as I kind of became a more experienced teacher, I just started to realize how much work we really have to do and how much of a life that you give up because of this profession. So I worked at a school where there was always something going on and always just more and more work to be done. And not only because of the school, but because of just like state regulations and things of that nature, that I just started becoming so overwhelmed. And after I had a child, I realized that like that's not the life that I wanted to live. And I'm going to say this because I know a lot of people kind of give teachers hate because they think that teachers complain a lot. If you've never stepped into a classroom and if you've never actually done the job, then you probably shouldn't be saying anything, because I know every job is stressful. I know a lot of jobs have high demand, but when I tell you that teaching has the like craziest demands, I'm not lying. So when I first started teaching, I would get to work at like 7:20, and sometimes I wouldn't even leave till 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. And it was just not good for my mental state. Not only that, like I would leave work and I still had work to do, because I think a lot of the times people think that when you're a teacher, you're just teaching kids like their ABCs and things like that. That's not the case at all. There are so many other things that go into a school that people don't see. For example, each kid has different accommodations. They have different needs that you have to make sure you remember, or you're going to, it's on you, right? Every kid is on different levels, especially for me, like I taught a bilingual classroom. So every kid was on a different language level, and I was expected to make sure that they met the standard that they had for the kids. And that's a lot of pressure when a lot of these kids, like they're not academically where people want them to be. And it's just like the most frustrating thing, because sometimes I would just feel so bad for the kids. Like they would try, some of them, and they just weren't there, and we put them through so much scrutiny and through so much different programs. And I know it's obviously to help them, but I don't know, sometimes I was like, at the end of the day, like they need to be kids, and we're just putting so much stress and pressure on them. I don't think it's healthy. Not only that, you have to make sure you keep up grades, and you have to make sure that if you have someone who's having behavioral issues, that you're like their psychiatrist as well. And there's just like so many other things that go into it as well, like emotionally. Like you start taking home all of the problems of the kids in your classroom. Like every single thing that happens to them, there's no way you can just be like, I don't care once you leave, right? And anyways, yeah, so it's just the demands of the job are so intense, and so they give you anxiety because of all the things you have to do. Like I remember last year, I think it was last year, every single time that grades were due, I would just have like a full-on panic attack, and that's not good, right? So I think that overall the demands that the profession puts on teachers is just too much. They expect you to be everything: an educator, a psychologist, a mom, a dad, a provider, just everything. And that can just become very overwhelming. So that was really one of the reasons why I just knew that this wasn't the job for me. Like I said, I know every job is stressful, but this one was just over the top stressful, especially when COVID hit. Like COVID really made me hate my job, because there were just so many things. And I know every job kind of had to have like changes, but just COVID was just, that's a whole other story. And constant changing because of what the CDC said and all this stuff, it was just too much. So that was the first reason why I quit teaching. Okay, so the second reason why I quit teaching, it's kind of like more than one thing, but I wrote down on my notes, I wrote down lack of appreciation, pay, and maternity leave. So I'm just gonna preface this by saying that I'm not the kind of person who constantly needs to hear that I'm doing a good job. I don't need to constantly hear that. I don't thrive off that, but it would be nice to sometimes get acknowledged for everything that you're doing. And when I say lack of appreciation, I mean lack of appreciation because there were times that my team or we would be doing something and we would work so hard on this thing for our kids or for the families or for our school or whatever, and it would just get like looked past, and or they would just look at what we had done and worked so hard for and just been like, well, it could have been better or something like that, you know? And I also think that lack of appreciation from students as well. There were times when I would, you know, really work hard on a lesson or a project that I thought that they would love, and they would just literally be so disrespectful, not care, say this is boring and things like that. And I mean, at the end of the day, they're kids, but I feel that there is a lack of appreciation as well as from parents, because I think that they think that we are just, I don't know, babysitters, to be honest. Like, they do not appreciate that this is so much more than that. Like, if I was their babysitter, I would let them play all day. But I just have a lot of respect for teachers because I know everything that they do for the kids. And so I think there's a lack of appreciation from parents. They don't see all the work that we do for their children. So, and not every parent, because I had some like awesome parents that like I always am like, that's the kind of mom that I want to be. And then I had others that just really were not it. So I think that overall the lack of appreciation is very just like sad, because I think it's a job that's important and that there needs to be like good teachers out there, but because of the way people act towards them, that's why they're all quitting. So that's one. And then the pay, obviously, like, teachers do not make a lot of money. That's not anything that people don't know, right? And so I think it just sucks that teachers don't get paid more, because even though a lot of people say, well, y'all get summers off and things like that. Yeah, well, not really, because most of the time you're doing some sort of trainings so that we can prepare for the new year. We all plan our lessons in the summer. We get our classrooms ready. It's just like a vacation, but you're still kind of working. And yeah, we do get holidays off and things, which are great, but you never stop working when you're a teacher. So it's just like I see my husband and he goes to work and he gets off work and he never thinks about work, like, ever again. But me, when I was teaching, I was constantly like, it's Sunday, no, I have to go home, I have to finish my lesson plan. Or it's Saturday, hey, I can't do this because I have to grade. And that's just not, like, nobody wants to live like that when I'm already spending so many hours in the classroom, after school, in meetings, or just doing other stuff, right, at work. And then on the weekends, I can't even enjoy myself. Not to mention, when I would get emails on a weekend saying, like, you need to do something, I'm like, don't email me on the weekend. Like, let me live my life. And they would always like say, okay, we need this done by Monday. Well, so then I'm not off on Saturday and Sunday because you're asking me to do something that you need to be done by Monday. So there goes my weekend, right? Just all of that, and just knowing that, like, teachers don't get a very big pay increase. I think that over the span of the 6 years that I taught, my raises were just so low. And no matter how hard you worked, you were never going to get paid any more than, you know, if you did the bare minimum, which is crappy, obviously. But like, I remember my first 2 years, I like did so many extra things, but then I just started getting so burned out. And I also realized that, like, all that time I was spending at school, like, I was never going to get compensated for that. I mean, yeah, like with the kids, but then that goes back to the lack of appreciation because they didn't even care sometimes. So, yeah, they're just things like that. I just feel like I do think that they're trying to pay, like, raise the pay. But I don't know. I still think that they should get paid more because there's just so much that goes into it. Also, like, you're not just a teacher in a classroom, you're analyzing data all the time, you're being creative. There's just like a lot of things I feel like we should get paid more. So yeah, that's not we, because I'm not a teacher anymore, but they should get paid more for. So, and then maternity leave. So whenever I got pregnant, I didn't realize how poorly the maternity, or like how poor the maternity leave is for teachers, because basically for me, I had to get disability insurance 2 years prior to me getting pregnant, which thank God I did, because one of my friends told me after I got married to do it. And so basically I had to get this disability and pay out of my paycheck every single month in order to be able to take my maternity leave when I had my baby. So basically I didn't get, like, you know how some companies will give you 6 weeks of paid maternity leave or whatever? That's not how it works when you're a teacher. So basically you have to make sure that you have acquired enough days in order to be able to take off for that time. So when you're a teacher, or at least in Texas, you get 5 sick days a year and 5 personal days a year. So you don't always use all those days. So let's say that I only use 5 of my days and I have 5 left over. They roll over to the next year. So a lot of the times teachers will just like never call in. Like there are some teachers that I literally think would do everything in their power to come into school like and never take a day off, which that's not good, because I feel like it should be more accepted to take a personal mental day off, because sometimes you just need it. But sometimes teachers would just not take off because they knew that they were trying to, you know, have a family, and so they didn't want to use their days, because if you don't have days then you don't get paid. So like for me, I didn't have that many days, but they basically made me use all of my days first. Then my unemployment kicked in, my disability kicked in, and then they started paying me. And then guess what? I ran out of days. So I think for the month of December, I didn't get paid at all when it was my month that I was supposed to go back. I didn't get paid anymore because I just didn't have any more days, and my disability was over. And I didn't want to take only 6 weeks. I wanted to take 12 weeks. So I had to take that pay cut. And I just think that that's kind of messed up, because then after that, when I went back to work, I didn't have any days left over. So like when Levi got sick, I had to take that day off and not get paid because they made me take those days for maternity leave. And I don't know. I just think that's wrong, because we shouldn't be getting penalized for wanting to start a family. I feel like there needs to be just like a better sort of maternity leave for teachers, especially because like there's mostly only women in the profession. So oh, and then I also had to leave lesson plans for whenever I left for maternity leave, which was so stressful because I had to leave 12 weeks worth of lesson plans for someone, and I bet she didn't even look at them. Actually, I know she didn't look at them. And so I spent all that time stressing about it. And it's like, if I'm going to take this time off, like, let me take it off. I shouldn't have to be working prior to me taking it off, because that just makes no sense. So anyways, that is my second reason why I quit teaching: lack of appreciation pay, and the maternity leave sucks. Okay, number 3, I put no professional growth. And I don't mean that for everyone, because I definitely think that if you got your degree in education and you go and get your master's and you really, really do a lot in your district or in your school, that there's plenty of room for you to grow. I think that the one good thing about being a teacher is that, well, at least in my school, there's a lot of very, how do I say it? Like, people really care about you because at your school, because I think that you spend so much time with them. Like for me, a lot of people I met at my job are my friends, and like they were at my wedding and they saw me have a baby, not like literally saw me, but they were there when I had a baby. So I feel like obviously you become close to your teammates, and so I think that they root you on and people see all the things that you're doing, and so there could be potential for growth. I just feel like I could do a lot more if I just left and pursued something else. I just felt like for me there was no professional growth, and that was one of the main reasons as well why I decided to leave. Okay, number 4 is one of the biggest reasons, I would say. No, I would say not one of the biggest, but it was a really huge contribution, and that is the parents and the lack of respect from them and the kids. Okay, not the kids. Like, I loved my kids, but some of them and their disrespect just got out of hand. I'm gonna preface this by saying that I had some parents, like I said, that I loved. They were the best. I loved their kids. I loved all the kids, but some of them I literally feel were so disrespectful, and I would just really sit there and question, like, who raised you? Because the disrespect sometimes was just crazy. And a lot of the times I would realize that it was because their parents were even worse. It's not the kid's fault, it's the parents' fault. But yeah, I think that parents were, you know, they just became so overbearing. And I think that they started trying to tell me how to do my job. And it was like, you don't even know what you're talking about. So that's what I hated. I hated the parents who would try to come in, tell me how to do my job, tell me how to treat their kid, or not treat their kid, because obviously I treated them all with respect, but tried to tell me what to do in my classroom because of their kid. I could just say so many instances that if I told y'all, you would probably like die laughing at the ridiculousness of parents' demands, parents' concerns. There was one, I'm not going to talk about it, but it was just ridiculous. And I get it because I'm a mom now, and I understand. Like, if anyone ever did anything to my kid, I would be the first one up to the school or anywhere, and I would make sure that it never happened again. Or if I felt like my kid wasn't, being given a fair education, I would be the first one to go up there. Especially like parents who have kids with like IEPs. I get it. Like, they just want their kid to have the best education possible for them to be successful. And I understand those kind of parents. What I don't understand is when a parent will come up and get mad at you because the party that we threw for like the end of the year was not up to their standard, or just craziness like that. Or the parents who think that they can tell me how to grade their child's work, because that's ridiculous too. And sometimes parents, they could not comprehend that their child was in the wrong. And that's a terrible trait to teach your child. Like, there were parents who, I remember there was a time when a parent didn't like a grade I gave their child. And so I showed them the child's work, and I was like, well, this is why I gave them that grade. And they literally turned it around on me. And it was like, it's your fault because this is happening. It's your fault that they're not passing. It's your fault that they don't like your class. So it's your fault that they're getting bad grades. And I'm like, what? It just was ridiculousness. And I just can't take it anymore. I think that, I went to college. I feel like I'm a smart person. And I feel like I should not be looked down on in my own job by someone who doesn't even work there. It's just ridiculous. So that was like one of the things. And like, I was sick and tired of having anxiety every single time I hit send on the grade book, because I just knew in 24 hours I was going to get an email talking crap to me about the grades. And sometimes I get it. Like, for example, one time I messed up and a mom emailed me and I was like, you're right, it was my mistake. I owned it and we fixed it. But some of the emails I would get, like paragraphs of ridiculousness. So that was probably like one of the main reasons. And it just taught me how not to be as a parent with my child. But again, I get it. Like, if someone did something to my kid, I would go crazy probably. But there were times that it was just that didn't need to be the case. So that is the fourth reason. And as far as the kids go, I will say that the kids were the best part of this whole entire job, but they were also the part that sometimes were the worst. Like, some of them were so sweet, and just like, even some of them that were like naughty sometimes. They're kids, like, I would always be like, okay, like, they acted up today, but they're kids. Like, who didn't act up as a kid? But it was the blatant disrespectful ones that I was like done with. Like, there were a couple that I can think in my head that would do the most disrespectful things, and then I would call home and the mom was like, well, what did you do to provoke it? Things like that. So I think that was it. And I think because of COVID, kids do not care about school. Like, they obviously did online learning for a whole year. So going back to school this past year was rough. Like, they just did not care. They just tried to do the bare minimum, and that's just really frustrating. And I can see the difference. Like, when I started teaching 6 years ago, I could tell that the kids, obviously there were some disrespectful ones and things like that, but they were not the same as they are now. Like, they are completely different now. And I've taught the same grades, and I truly believe that, I don't know what's going on, but they're even worse than they were before. Because before, and I was young when I first started teaching, and I taught 5th grade, and I was so worried they weren't going to respect me because I was so young. But they did respect me, and I felt like as the years progressed, they just respect me less. So anyways, that's number 4. Okay, and then number 5, the last reason why I knew it was time for me to go was the toxic environment and the anxiety and mental scrutiny that I felt. I feel like when I say toxic, I don't mean like at my school or like my district. I think it's overall a toxic environment to work in because of the constant politics that are involved with the profession. And I feel that sometimes you're made out to feel like a bad person for being a normal human being. For example, I know that this is not good, but I feel like every single time if I were to post me having a drink in summer or in a bikini, like I felt judged. And like, I'm a human, you know, like I don't need to be Virgin Mary because I'm a teacher. Like I can still be a normal human being. And I felt like we were held up to this like standard of what they wanted us to be. And it's like, well, we're normal people. Like we're not God. And so I feel like that's just toxic. And I feel like I'm pretty professional. Like I'm a pretty professional person. So I know what not to post and what to post on social media. But there was just like a lot of like that toxic, and kind of expectations, and also toxic in a way that like if you left at 3:30 every day, which is when we were allowed to leave, and didn't stay until like 7 o'clock, I felt like sometimes I would feel judged as well for that. And it's like, I'm not going to stay here till 7 o'clock. Like I got a family that I want to go home and spend time with. And so, I mean, no one ever told me anything. I just felt like that sometimes. Because when I was first starting to teach, I would like sign up to do a lot of extracurricular things. And as I got older, I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And I felt like that was probably didn't look good that I wasn't participating in so many extra things. But it was just because like, again, I already worked enough in my classroom and I like just didn't want to do it. The anxiety, that was the worst part. When you start feeling like you don't even want to get out of your bed and get ready every morning, and you're literally sitting there like, can I just quit today? That's not good. Or like when you're driving and everyone has bad days where they don't want to go to work, but it just became way too bad. Like I never felt like that my first 2 years. Like I actually really enjoyed it. But then after a while, it just got just terrible. Like I would be driving, pulling into the parking lot, and I'd be like, I just want to drive off. Like I literally don't want to go inside here because of the anxiety of like turning on, like unlocking my door, turning on the lights, and just feeling a ping of anxiety because I felt like my lesson wasn't good enough, or I didn't have enough prepared for the day. And what was I going to do if I didn't have enough prepared? Or that we had a deadline we had to meet and it needed to happen fast, or that I didn't do something right and I got in trouble for it. So there was just like so many anxiety things, and I was just done. And I think also another thing is that a lot of the times behavior issues would be going on in my classroom, and I would ask for help, and then it would just be like not that much help. And so then I was left to deal with it myself when there was a bunch of other kids in the class as well. And that just gave me a lot of anxiety too. And then mentally, like I just was not happy. Like I was not happy being in that environment anymore. That last month in May, I was like, get me out of here. And I was taking a really big risk because I didn't have another job lined up. But I feel like I made the best decision for myself. Like I feel so much happier, even though obviously like I'm going through a transitional time in my life because I'm trying to transition careers after being in one type of career for 6 years. But I just feel so much happier not having the stress of what I know is coming like in the school year. Like school starts soon, and I just feel like I'm just so glad I don't have to do that again. And I feel like I made the best decision for myself, because once I started feeling mentally drained, mentally checked out, I like didn't think that was fair to my family, especially after I had a kid. Like I don't want to have a bad day at work, like, and be mentally drained, physically drained, and not be able to like give him the best as a mom. So I am just so glad that I quit, and I'm so glad that I did it though. Like I am glad that I was a teacher, because I feel like I learned so much. I am thankful for the people who hired me right out of college with no experience, because they gave me the opportunity to learn a lot professionally and personally. So I'm very grateful that I did this profession, but I definitely think that it has changed over time. And if you're feeling the same way I am, I just know that there are many other jobs you can do if you feel like you're stuck and you have no way out. That's not true, because I have had many opportunities. I haven't landed a job yet, but I have had many opportunities that have shown me that there's just so many other things that you can do out there. So if you're unhappy in a job, then you need to do what's best for you and try to not feel that way. And at the end of the day, no one wants to have an unhappy teacher, because the kids are directly impacted. I feel, if you're already going in with a bad attitude, then you're just kind of setting that stage up for your classroom. So yeah, I just feel like overall that those are the reasons why I quit teaching. If you're a new teacher going into teaching for the first year, don't let this scare you. I see people who literally don't feel this way. Like they just are so passionate and love teaching so much, and this doesn't affect them. And that may be you, you know, who knows? But I think that your first year, just know that it's going to be the hardest, but it's also going to get better because you learn a lot and you kind of get the groove of how to be a teacher. So don't let these kind of videos scare you, because I think I also was watching YouTube videos when I first started teaching and I was like, oh my God, I'm so scared. But I made it and I was there for 6 years, so that should, you know, show you that it is a very rewarding job, but it just has a lot of other things that I just didn't want to do anymore. So yeah, that's it. Make sure you guys like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel. I post new videos every single week, and also check out my Instagram. I'll leave it down below. It is Catherine Andrea _, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.